Hello YouTube and fellow DC Comic fans, I'm Keith One Shot, and this is my Comic Complete Dramatic Reading Series, and today, we will be covering The Flash Issue 30, Bloodwork Part 1 from DC Comics. All art, text, characters, and storylines belong to DC Comics and their respective owners, not me. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to go out and support DC Comics and your local comic book shop. We start this story off in a lab, where we see a man working with blood samples. As he's drawing out the blood into a needle, we hear him narrate, "All blood is the key. It is the fountain of youth. But within it also lies a hormone that activates the self-destruct switch inside our bodies. It tells us to age and eventually die, but what if we were to unlock its secrets and told our blood to preserve us instead?" We then see the man injecting himself with the blood sample, then his arm begins reacting to the blood. We then go to the Central City Crime Lab, where we see firefighters dealing with the last bit of the fire that destroyed the records room and nearly killed many who were there, including Barry Allen. We then see Barry inside of David Sin's office, as Sin says, "Do you have any idea how lucky you are? You could have been killed in that fire. Finding the missing evidence was important to the crime lab. I talked to Burns and Morrow. They told me that they warned you about going to the records room alone, but you still went. And Christian said you might have been drunk at work. This is why I told you to work with a team, Barry, to follow my orders, to report to me, because where Barry Allen goes, trouble follows." Barry then stands up and starts walking away. Then David Sin says, "What are you're leaving? Go ahead. Do what you always do. Disappear when you're needed. I don't know how Iris put up with you for as long as she did." Barry's eyes then spark black in a rage. Then he turns around and shouts, "What? I'm so sick of your tough love act, Sin. I've bailed you and this crime lab out so many times. Before I came here, this lab's rep was a joke. You had two kinds of cases. Cold cases that would never get solved, or rush cases that wouldn't hold up in court. If it wasn't for me, the streets would be overrun with criminals." Forrest then stands up and says to Barry, "Hey now, Barry, you of all people know that everyone here puts in long hours away from their families. They don't deserve what you're saying. Why don't you and I go to Big Belly Burger, Ann?" Barry then replies, "So, the crime lab mascot decides to finally speak up." Then Forrest says while shocked, What? Then Barry tells Forrest, "You just sit there all day, Forrest. What do you actually contribute to the lab?" Then Forrest replies, "That isn't fair. I put in my time, Barry. After I retire, me and my boat are gonna." Then Barry shouts, "There is no boat, Forrest. No boat." Davidson then yells, "What is wrong with you, Barry? I'm giving you your last chance to fix this." Then Barry replies, "Don't bother." And Sin says, "Excuse me?" Barry then tells Sin, "If you're so unhappy with my work, then fire me already." Then Sin reaches out for Barry and says, "Barry." Then Barry walks away and says, "Don't." As he leaves the office, Barry then thinks to himself, "I didn't want to snap like that at the lab. I shouldn't have. I don't know why. I just keep getting madder and madder. It has to be the negative speed force inside me, but this is for their own good. Pushing them away means they won't get run down on my path." As Barry is packing things up in his lab, Kristen Kramer comes in and says, "Well, that was fun." Then Barry replies, "The crime lab is better off without me, Kristen." Then Kristen says, "Barry, every day we come to work, we deal with horror, confronted with the worst of life. But you made it easy to come to the lab. You were so hopeful. As much as you can be a pain in the butt, when you're here, when you're on, you're the best. And that's what drives me crazy about you. I've had some bad breakups too, but how you been acting?" Barry then tells Kristen, I'm fine." Then Kristen responds, "Did you know my mom and dad died a few years ago? Car accident." Then Barry says, "I had no idea, Kristen. Then Kristen tells Barry, "It's okay. It's right when I started interning here, and I didn't feel like sharing. After the funeral, my little sister Kim stopped talking to me. She wouldn't answer my texts or calls. When her friends did reach her, she was acting out. Being self-destructive, I finally caught up with her, and you know what she told me? She was doing fine. I remember the day we got the call here at the station. What she did, it wasn't considered a crime scene. There was no evidence to process, but I still had to identify her body. After that, I started to pay more attention to the unsaid things going on with people around me. There are so many things I wish I could have told her. So whatever it is you're going through, it's okay." Barry then tells her, "Kristen, it's not. I'm not." Then Kristen replies, Listen please. You don't have to tell me, but don't hide. Don't push us away. You're not alone. The crime lab is here for you. We're your friends. We can all work with you, okay?" Barry then replies, "I told him to fire me." Then Kristen puts her hands on Barry's shoulder and says, "Yeah, I think Gotham heard you say that. I guess you better close the case and get back in Sin's good graces." The two then look over the evidence they collected for the case. Then Barry says to Kristen, "Someone stole biological evidence from closed cases that were still in our lockup, mostly blood samples." Then Kristen replies, "And getting evidence at a CCPD is way easy if you know the right people. Morrow talked to the guards. They just felt like they were having a heart attack and blacked out. They didn't see who started the fire." Barry then says, "Okay, so whoever it is, they're trying to cover up their tracks. They know someone is onto them. They would want to destroy the samples they stole next." Kristen then smiles as she says, "Not bad, Alan, but that was a lot of blood stolen. It'd take more than just flushing it down a toilet to get rid of it. At that crime scene, there would be traces everywhere." Barry then replies, "They'd need to dispose of it in a place where blood wouldn't stand out. A place you wouldn't think twice if you saw blood." Then Kristen says, "But where would that be?" Then Barry thinks to himself, oh no, as he's now figured out who stole the blood samples. Kristen then says, if those samples are destroyed, the crime lab would be in a lot of trouble. We need to find them. Then Kristen turns around and notices that Barry is gone. Then she says, Barry? What the hell? Really? We then hear Barry thinking to himself, going as a Flash might be overkill, but I don't want to go down there with Kristen and risk anything happening to her. The thief set a fire that could have killed people, just to hide evidence. Who knows what he could do when he's caught? The Flash then pays a visit to the crime lab's morgue to confront the person who's been stealing the evidence. Once he arrives, Flash says to a shadowy figure, I can't let you destroy those blood samples, Ramsey. Put that evidence down. No one else has to get hurt. Ramsey then replies, someone always gets hurt, Flash. Then all of a sudden, the Flash starts screaming out in pain. Then he falls to the ground. The Flash then says to Ramsey, What are you doing to me? Then Ramsey replies, I could have done this job forever, you know? I love being a coroner. But when you're down here around the dead, all day, every day, you realize that forever is a fantasy. Each body I cut into, in the name of justice, made me painfully aware how vulnerable life really is. But now, I can't be cut. We then see Ramsey trying to cut himself with a surgeon's knife, but it doesn't cut through him. Then Ramsey says, I'm invulnerable. I'll never bleed again. Then the Flash says, what did you do? Then Ramsey tells the Flash, when I was young, my parents treated me like a precious porcelain doll. I didn't understand why I wasn't allowed to play like the other kids. How can you deny a child friends? As I bled on that playground, to the sounds of children screaming, I learned what the word hemophiliac meant. My curse was a genetic abnormality. That meant my blood couldn't clot properly. The smallest cut was a death sentence. So instead, I lived a life without risk, but that safety became my cage. I wanted to find a cure. My training as a coroner, mixed with my medical understanding of my condition, made me an expert in blood and how it works within us. A lot of criminals come through my morgue, a lot of evidence, sometimes even samples from metahumans that CCPD locks up in Iron Heights. I stole from the old closed cases and experimented on my blood. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt, but when I heard that people from the crime lab were looking into missing evidence, I needed to protect myself, Flash. Ramsey then kneels down and tells the Flash, and it was worth it. I'm beyond cured, and as you can feel, there were some unforeseen side effects. I can control the blood of others, congeal it, make it burn. The Flash then thinks to himself, that is exactly what happened to me in the records room. I didn't pass out from exhaustion. Ramsey attacked me. Then the Flash says to Ramsey, stop! Then Ramsey replies, you can't hurt me, Flash, but if you know about me, then the cops must know too. I might as well go out with a bang. I'll kill you, then I'll kill everyone in the CCPD. Flash then turns around and screams in a rage, no! Then the Flash releases a wave of negative Speed Force energy at Ramsey, giving off a loud crack-a-boom! And sending Ramsey flying back and crashing through the walls of the CCPD. Ramsey's body then lands outside, and everyone around then begins to panic and shout out, oh my god! Did you see that? It was the Flash! The Flash killed him! Then the Flash says, I didn't mean to! Then the Flash thinks to himself, the negative Speed Force, it reacts to my emotions. It's what Thorn used to hurt people, and I just used it to kill a man. I'm no better than Thorn. Then we see Ramsey stand back up and say, all I wanted to do was protect myself, and I would have shared that, Flash. My experiments could have helped others like me. You just jeopardized that. Then the Flash says with a shocked look on his face, Ramsey! Then Ramsey says, I was wondering how invulnerable I was. Thank you for testing me, Flash. Well now, I've lived in Central City long enough to know all your enemies take on monikers that say exactly what their specialty is. Am I right? It's all a bit on the nose, but it's fun. Captain Cold, Heat Wave, Weather Wizard, Mirror Master. What should I call myself? Then the Flash walks forward and responds, you're not a rogue, Ramsey. Then Ramsey says, get back! As Ramsey pushes the Flash away, blood flows from his fingers, knocking the Flash back. Then it's shown that Ramsey has full control of this blood. Then he surrounds himself in the blood. Then Ramsey says, you are an infection inside Central City, and I am the antibody inside of it that will remove you. I saw in the news the destruction you caused Central City, that you helped Shrapnel kill those bikers. Then Ramsey attacks Flash with his blood. The Flash does his best to fight back Ramsey's attack. Then the Flash shouts, that doesn't what happened. I don't want to hurt you, Ramsey. Then Ramsey replies, I won't be one of your victims, Flash. We then see that Ramsey has taken on a new form, where he seems to be made of pure blood. Then Ramsey says with a confident look on his face, blood work will make you the victim. And that ends today's story. Comic published by DC Comics. All rights, story art, and characters belong to DC Comics and their respective owners. Not me. This has been The Flash, issue 30, Bloodwork Part 1, and I'm your host, Keith One Shot. If you like this video, make sure to check out the rest of my Comic Complete dramatic reading series, and support DC Comics by picking up a copy of the trades and single issue comics. Support your local comic book shop, take care, and have a great day. Goodbye!